Hey Frag fam, Corbin here again from Northwest Scent. Today I'm bringing you guys part 2 to the video that I did a few weeks ago, which was called 5 awesome fragrance alternatives. If you guys have not watched that video, I would recommend it, so watch it right here. Check it out and then come back to this one. But as far as this video goes, this is again 5 higher end designer or niche fragrances that are on the more expensive side, and then their alternatives. These alternatives are not necessarily clones or even inspired by fragrances, but they just matter-of-factly do smell really similar. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, please stay tuned. But first, let's roll that intro. So really quickly before I show you guys the first set of fragrances, the format is I will show you the more expensive version of the fragrance and then I will switch over and show you the alternative, and that will be the structure. So starting right off at the number 5 spot, we are starting with a discontinued fragrance. It's from Mugler and it's called Pure Tonka. So this one currently is fetching around $100, maybe $110. I could see it jumping up to $150, maybe even $200 here pretty soon, or at least in the next couple of months. This stuff is absolutely fantastic. This is about as gourmandish as you can get from Mugler, or at least from the Amen line. This one has coffee, it has cacao, it has that patchouli, which the entire line has. Then of course it has tonka bean, which, you know, after all it is called Pure Tonka. This stuff is extremely sweet. It's a little bit syrupy, a little bit spicy, very edible smelling, and very, very sexy. I love this stuff a ton. Now that it is discontinued, I use it a little bit more sparingly, although I still do wear it. I used to have a backup bottle. Unfortunately, I do not anymore. I kind of regret selling it off. Nonetheless, there is an alternative that does smell really similar, which is from Cartier, and it's called Pasha de Cartier Parfum. So I'm sure you guys have heard of this one. This is a 2020 release. It came out last year. And when I picked this thing up, the first thing I thought of when I smelled it was Pure Tonka. They are strikingly similar. No joke, I don't know if anybody else has made that comparison, but again, that's what I thought of immediately when I smelled it. This one goes in a slightly different direction. This one kind of tones down the sweetness and then it amps up the woodiness and green notes. So this one is just a little bit more mature and then a little bit greener. I think the DNA here works absolutely amazingly though. You take some gourmand notes and then you just kind of mature it basically, so it's not as syrupy, sweet, and sickening. So if you guys want the more mature version of Pure Tonka or just something really similar, I would check this one out. You can get this for about $55 on discounters, so basically half the price of Pure Tonka currently. So I definitely recommend it. Again, the fragrance alternative at the number 5 spot was Pasha de Cartier Parfum. The fragrance at the number 4 spot gets a lot of hype in the community, and for good reason. This stuff smells fantastic, and I think all of the hype is deserved. It's from Amouage, and it's called Reflection Man. So if any of you guys own an Amouage fragrance, I would be willing to bet that this is the one you have. If you have a few of them, this is probably in your collection. This stuff smells absolutely amazing. It has a lot of white florals in it, but it is not feminine smelling. It comes across very sweet, a little bit fresh spicy. It has some pink pepper. It has sandalwood, which makes it very creamy. This stuff is blended amazingly. It's really hard to pick out individual notes, but the combination just smells fantastic. I love this stuff, but it is quite expensive. You're probably gonna be paying up to $200 or even more for a bottle of this stuff, at least in the 100 milliliter size. However, the alternative comes in even a bigger bottle size, 125 milliliters, and you can get these for around $50 to maybe $75. It's from Jean Paul Gaultier, and it's called Le Male. So this is probably one of the alternatives that is more predictable. A lot of people talk about this comparison. I think it is somewhat warranted for sure though. This thing has that same creamy, sweet, kind of white floral nuance to it, but this does not have any white florals in it. It of course has lavender. This is what you would consider a modern barbershop fragrance. It also has mint, so it comes across a little bit herbaceous. I think the comparison here is strikingly similar, and for the price difference, you can get a really similar vibe here with this one for about a third of the price. So performance on this thing is not great, but at a cheaper cost, you can spray this thing heavy and you will be set to go. So again, the alternative at the number 4 spot, that was Jean Paul Gaultier's Le Male. So at the number 3 spot for the more expensive fragrance, we do have another discontinued fragrance. This thing's already fetching well into the triple digits. It is from a very popular line of fragrances, so I could see the prices going up even more than they already have. It's from Dior, and it's called Dior Homme Eau For Men. So there's 3 fresh offerings from the Dior Homme line. This one, Dior Homme Cologne, and then Dior Homme Sport. As far as the fragrances that do contain iris, this is the freshest offering that still has the iris note. So you still get that kind of waxy lipstick vibe from the top. However, this one at the same time does not come across heavy whatsoever. Has lots of citruses that really support it and make this thing very easy to wear and very mass appealing. As it dries down, the citruses die off a little bit and that waxiness kind of mellows out, and you get some amber in the base that rises up and makes it a little bit powdery and actually more sweet in the dry down than it does from the top. So this stuff does develop on your skin, and again, it smells really nice, but it is really expensive and it's getting a lot harder to find now. So the alternative I have for you guys comes in at less than half the price when you buy it from discounters, and it gives you a very, very similar vibe, and I think it smells just as good. It's from Prada, and it's just the original Prada L'Homme. So this one has iris as well, although in this case it does not go waxy. It goes way more in the soapy clean direction. This one also kind of has a Coca-Cola vibe from the top, kind of hard to describe, but it is not heavy and syrupy sweet. This stuff is very fresh. If you're looking for the more fresher offering of the two, this one is a lot fresher to me than Dior Homme Eau. So again though, the DNA is there. They do have a strikingly similar scent, and again, at half the price or even less, you can get this one. So my recommendation of the two as of current would be Prada L'Homme. So at the number 2 spot for the more expensive fragrance, it is Xerjoff Naxos. Oh my gosh, this is one of those fragrances where you just pick it up and you sniff it and it just like you fall head over heels for it all over again. So it's a tobacco fragrance. It also has lemon and bergamot with cinnamon and then honey. There's even vanilla. So this thing is very, very sweet, a little bit spicy. It's a nice, easy to wear tobacco scent. And then the lemon in this makes it really appealing and fresh off the top. That goes away pretty quickly. I absolutely love this stuff. However, there is a fragrance that you can get for about a third to a quarter of the price of this one for about the same smell. It's from Mugler, and it is Pure Havane. So of the two, this one came out earlier, and they do smell strikingly similar. I do actually believe in this case that Xerjoff looked at Pure Havane and basically created their own version of it. I do prefer Naxos of the two. However, this one still smells fantastic. I actually do wear this one more just because it is a lot cheaper. This one doesn't have those citruses. Instead, it does have the patchouli, which is normal again for this line as far as the DNA goes. So in this case, this one's a little bit darker. You get kind of a chocolatey feel because of that patchouli. Outside of that, they do smell really similar. I would say, at least from the opening, 95% the same. However, in the dry down, they do go in slightly different directions. Nonetheless, if you guys want a really good alternative to Naxos and get basically the same vibe, check this one out. So again, the alternative at the number 2 spot was Mugler's Pure Havane. And finally, at the number 1 spot for the more expensive fragrance, it is Tom Ford's Gray Vetiver. So this is probably one of the more easy to wear vetiver fragrances. In this case, the vetiver does not come across dirty or earthy or anything like that. It's more of a woody smell, and it's a very light, kind of creamy woody smell. It's kind of hard to describe. It kind of reminds me of the scent of like crackers in a way, not quite. But you also get a lot of citruses here. There's even some spices, so it's a nice, fresh, spicy vetiver. Very easy to wear, very nice business casual or business formal scent. This is fairly inoffensive. I think in general, if you want something as far as vetiver goes that's easy to wear, this is a great option. However, the alternative, it's the same story. It's a nice, easy to wear vetiver fragrance. It's from Guerlain, and it's called Vetiver. So this one, same story, spices, citruses, vetiver. In this case, the vetiver goes in less of a woody direction, and it goes more towards like smoky in a way. Still kind of woody, it's a little bit darker. So if you want kind of, I would say, a more mature vetiver fragrance that is still appealing and then very citrusy, a little bit spicy, this one's the way to go. You can get this for about $35 from discounters, so literally a third of the price of the Tom Ford. And not only that, the quality on this is fantastic. You could honestly swap places of the two. Like, I would believe this would be a Tom Ford fragrance as far as quality goes. This does not smell cheap to me at all. If you just, again, you want something that's vetiver based but very easy to wear and maybe a little bit more mature smelling than Tom Ford's Gray Vetiver, this is my recommendation. So again, at the #1 spot for the alternative, it was Guerlain's Vetiver. Well, there you go. Those are my 5 awesome fragrance alternatives. In my opinion, the alternatives, you guys will pull in just as much positive attention wearing those as the more expensive version, but again, at a much reduced price. If you guys enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate dropping a like just to show your support, and that way more people can see my videos on YouTube. And while you're down there doing that, if you guys want to write a comment letting me know your thoughts, as well as maybe some new video ideas and topics, that would be great too. And since you're down there doing all that stuff, if you guys haven't already, if you could subscribe and hit the bell notification, that would be great. That way you guys stay up to date on new videos whenever they get released going forward. But with all that out of the way, that's all I really have for you guys today. So I hope you have a good one. Stay healthy, stay wealthy, and smell great.